Well, good afternoon, everybody. We appreciate everybody coming out for this press availability. Prior to a hearing that'll be before the subcommittee on space, science, and competitiveness, I'm pleased to be joined with my fellow committee members from the subcommittee and to have the ranking member of the full committee, Senator Nelson, as well. We thought it was important to kind of set the debate going forward prior to the meeting that we thought that this hearing that we're going to have today really doesn't make a lot of sense given the challenges that we're facing and the notion that the science when it comes to climate change is pretty clear. It's basically settled science. The fact that we're taking committee time to talk about something that is already settled, it does not further what we need to be doing, which is looking at ways in which we deal with the way that the climate is changing. This subcommittee is also about innovation. It's about competitiveness, that we need to continue to be competitive in this country. And by debating what is already, for the most part, would be considered settled science makes no sense. We know the climate is changing rapidly. All you have to do is look about you to see that. We know what's happened with hurricanes and superstorms. We also know in my state of Michigan some of the impacts of that. Last summer, for example, we had some toxic algae blooms in Lake Erie that were really had a devastating impact on the quality of drinking water. In fact, millions of people found that their drinking water was contaminated as a result of these algae blooms. And those algae blooms are linked to climate change and the fact that we have warmer temperatures that allows that algae to grow at a much more rapid rate than it would normally. And this is just some of the many aspects of how climate change is impacting us. The dependence on fossil fuels also leads to a variety of environmental impacts. I dealt with piles of pet coke in the Detroit area a couple of years ago. This substance that was blowing into people's lungs, people's homes, is all a result of our dependence on fossil fuels. We have to take action. We have a great deal of certainty. We know that 97% of the scientists that are climate scientists have agreed that climate change is real and that humans have a significant impact on it. One of the gentlemen who will be testifying today in our committee is an admiral from the Navy who was in charge of meteorology for the Navy but had a variety of other positions. And he's going to talk about how even in an uncertain environment, and even if it's not 100%, if we're at 97%, we have to compare that to military operations. And when a commander has to make a decision about a very threatening situation, normally they do not have 97% certainty when it comes to making tough decisions and putting men and women into harm's way. And he'll talk about how intelligence is never 100%, science is never 100%. But if commanders had the kind of certainty that we have when it comes to climate change, there would be no hesitation on the part of those military commanders to begin military operations. We know this consensus is not just here in the United States, it's all over the country. We had 190 countries from around the world gather in Paris, and my colleagues who will be talking here later, many of them were in Paris, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But this is also about the business community. We had 154 significant major businesses in this country all come out publicly to acknowledge that they believe that climate change is real and the human impact is significant. Those are companies as broad-ranging as two very important ones in my state, General Motors, as well as Kellogg. But you also have Coca-Cola, you have UPS, you have Walmart. It's really the who's who's list of major companies in this country who have acknowledged that we need to deal with this. It is interesting in today's hearing that we are bringing the subject up as well, and the fact that the chairman of the committee, Ted Cruz, will claim, I believe, we looked at the testimony, that we need more data before proceeding. And yet, as he says we need more data, he is someone who has also said that he does not believe that NASA should be funding earth science research to the level that they are right now. And all of my colleagues think this is certainly relevant for us in our Committee on Space, that NASA is the one agency that can provide the tools to NOAA and other agencies in an unparalleled way to get the information that we need. And Senator Cruz has said that that's not should not be a primary mission for NASA. My response certainly is that as wonderful as the solar system is, and I support planetary missions, we still have to remember that Earth is still the most important planet in the solar system. And we have to continue to focus on studying it so that we can understand how we deal with it.